Well, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us for our midweek Hebrew word study as we continue in the book of Ruth, chapter 2. We're picking up with the 10th verse, and as we shared last week, we are in the middle of this just incredible love story that's unfolding between Ruth and Boaz. And just to recap, Ruth is gleaning in the field of Boaz, and again, the commentators say this was God's providence that brought her to his field. And of course, Naomi has been directing her to pursue this and to go in this direction. And we'll find later on that Naomi plays quite an interesting character in the courtship and in how to navigate the we'll say the culture and the climate and the customs that Ruth would not be familiar with coming from the land of Moab. And so today, as we go through this, you'll see just the relationship start to build and the interaction between them, and try to point that out as the story builds. And so we go to verse 10, Vayipol al Panay, that she fell on her face as Boaz comes to the field kind of unexpectedly or uh, providentially comes to the field, asks questions about her. They finally get to meet, and she falls on her face and bowed to the ground before him. Again, just the humility and the um, uh, lowliness of spirit that we see, the humbleness that we see in Ruth. And again, this was just indicative of the time frame of Ruth. Knowing that she was a benefactor, was she seeing God's hand moving? I don't know. Keep that in mind as we go through this. But she definitely bowed to the ground. This is not necessarily in trying to make anything out of gender equality or things like this. This was just the custom of the time, and I believe it had more to do with her being a foreigner, her being poor, and realizing that she was obtaining favor and choosing to show her appreciation for the favor that she was being shown. And so she bowed her face to the ground and then repeats the words, Matsati, if I have found Chain. And this is that beautiful word of favor that we see just scattered throughout the Bible, and it comes from the word Hanan, which is where we get the word unmerited favor or grace comes from that. You'll see it's also the same time, and I like the connection here. If you look to the right side of your screen, you'll see that this word was first used in Genesis chapter 6, verse 8, which is where, if we remember the context, that Noah found this word favor, this chen, grace in the eyes of God, and it led to the story of the building of the ark and the saving of mankind because Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. Interesting that this is the same word used here by Ruth in her submission and in her understanding of what was being granted to her by Boaz, who's obviously a rich man, powerful man, owns the fields, uh, they're on opposite ends of the social scale, and that she used the same word that we find uh, very clearly outlined with the story of Noah and the ark. So if I have found favor in your eyes, that you should take notice of me since I am a foreigner. Again, this term of foreigner comes up so often here, and we're going to unpack this word and just take a look at the word in Hebrew is comes from the root word nun kaf resh with a yod at the end, pronounced nokri, and it's a foreigner, an alien. As you can see from the translation, where this is used throughout the NASB translation, it covers quite a variety of of people, all the way from an adulterer, adulterous woman, alien, aliens, foreigner, stranger, extraordinary. You kind of get the idea, that she was not fitting in, and she did not fit in with the culture and the customs and the people, and she recognized that. And I don't get the understanding that she's asking for any special favor, but she is recognizing that she's undeserving. And I think that's the important part of this, is to see the humility of Ruth's heart. And I believe this endears her to Boaz in a way that is maybe different from other people, other women that he has met. So, from finishing this verse 10, we're going to jump into the commentary um, from the Jewish sages in the book of Ruth. And so, as we look at what they have to say, it says she fell on her face in humble gratitude, acknowledging what we had talked about. They take in that she was praising God for his beneficence of taking care of her, and then brings up again here, why are you paying it, even giving me any time of day? Because I'm a foreigner. I'm not just a woman. I'm not just a stranger. I'm a foreigner. And pointing out that no one pays any special attention to them. And then here in the Targum, which is a translation of the Hebrew scriptures into Aramaic, gives us an enhanced understanding of how they thought this would read it, because they translated it to other Jewish people who were more familiar with Aramaic, because that was the language that was most commonly in use. And so, pointing out that I'm of a foreign nation, Ruth is saying, of Moab, and then brings out something I hadn't thought of, a nation not fit to enter into the assembly of, it uses the word Hashem, which is the way typical Orthodox Jews will relate to the word Yahweh, as to avoid pronouncing it. So it brings up here that, okay, she can live in the land, but she's not going to be able to enter into God's presence, which is at this time the tabernacle in the wilderness, because David, Solomon have not yet been born. We know that Ruth is going to be in the lineage of David. So this right now, their central place of worship is the tabernacle that's was used in the wilderness for the 40 years, but is set up right now in, I believe, Shiloh. And so she's acknowledging that even though she has come to Israel, she's come and made a conversion to Judaism under the laws that exist against Moabites, she's not fit to enter into the presence of God. And so she's acknowledging that as she comes into his presence. I think that's kind of interesting. So jumping ahead to the next verse, we go to verse 11. Vaya'an, Boaz answered her and said, Vayomer lach ugay, it has been fully reported to me. So there is the rumor mills going around. There is people filling him in on what's going on, and he gives her just a great report of what's been coming to him, what he's been hearing. It's reported to me all you've done to your mother-in-law since the death of your husband, and how you left your mother and father in the land of your birth, and have come to this people that you didn't know, and become a part of the Jewish nation. And so I guess that is just very telling. He recognizes her integrity. He recognizes what she is doing, because even though this is playing out right now, that he is providing this grace to her and providing her, with food to eat, and you're going to see that's going to increase here. He realizes that she's not a gold digger. She's not doing it for any material wealth, that her motives are pure, her heart is pure. And let's see, I think, what the Jewish sages have to say here as we look into an explanation on verse 11. Verse 11 says, Boaz responds that he has heard of her extraordinary and magnanimous deeds. Not a word everybody uses every day, but it's meant to show that she's very giving, that she shares, and she's very giving in all her deeds, how she treated her mother-in-law, leaving home to embrace Judaism. And he's pointing out here that the Hugade is doubled. Let's just take a look at that and see where it's pointed out. Oh, yep, here it is. This 5046. This is a nuance in Hebrew that we don't see in English, but in Hebrew, they don't have a lot of ways of doing superlatives or saying that something they have the word for great and very, but they don't use it like we use it in English. So in Hebrew, when they want to get the point across that something is elevated, being spoken of very highly, they want to emphasize the word, they will just use the word twice. And so it's hugade. Now, of course, that doesn't work very well for the English translators, so you'll see that they have taken this same word and made it into smoother English, where it says it has fully been reported. And so it's not just been reported, it's been fully reported. Now, in English, we may not pick up on the significance of it, but in Hebrew, to see this word repeated twice raises all of their insights and all of their awareness that this is a very strong, emphatic mentioning and telling that this was a very important thing. And so I think that's kind of a fun nuance to point out, difference between the Hebrew and the English. So here they're pointing out that this word has been doubled for emphasis, and Ruth considers herself unworthy of all Boaz's attention and just wanted to show her appreciativeness for it. And of course, here again, remember these commentators come from the Middle Ages, meaning that Rashi, that some of these other ones, there was a proliferation of Jewish literature and commentary during the Middle Ages from the time of about 1000 to around the time of 1500 AD. And so they're bringing in their culture, they're bringing in what was normally known at the time. And so I wanted to preface that before I read what was written here. It says, because this is going to make you laugh as it did me. First of all, despite the fact that a woman usually has ill feelings toward her mother-in-law, Ruth treated Naomi in an exemplary manner, especially after Naomi became widowed and forlorn, thus demonstrating a rare nobility of character. And then for, of course, leaving her parents and homeland to convert. So you'll get a little chuckle out of that, at least in the Middle Ages anyway, I'll say, that a woman normally had ill feelings towards her mother-in-law. I think we're going to just leave that one on its own and not expound on that anymore. And we'll jump ahead to verse 12. And so verse 12, it comes in that, again, Boaz is somewhat speaking prophetically, and it shows his trust in God because he says that repay Yahweh, or Yahweh will repay you work given to you and given you a full reward. Now, what's interesting here is these letters that we see, the Shin, Lamed, and Mem is where we get the word shalom from. If you go to Israel, you'll see that those letters will spell shalom. And shalom, of course, is thought of as being peace, but it's a very deep word. You'll see here again in 8003, you'll see this Shin Lamed Mem, basically the same letters and being translated as full. And the word here actually means, while it means peace, majority of times, it really comes from the root word of being sound or being complete, with the idea is that you can't have peace unless everything is well. meaning that everything is complete, everything is in harmony, that nothing is out of balance, that everyone has what they need to feel that their life is fulfilled, and then peace can come. Again, we don't often think of it that way. That's why it's, I think, very enriching for me to look at the root message or the etymology of the words to see where they come from, realizing that peace is dependent upon a completeness, a soundness, a fullness of feeling like you are in full satisfaction. And again, peace, maybe that's why peace is so elusive, especially in our day and time, as people are not feeling satisfied. People are not feeling complete. They're not feeling heard. They're not feeling recognized. And so there's unrest. And pick your country, pick your locale, pick your political party, pick whatever you want, and you'll find there's the evidence of unrest and insufficiency, and there's not peace because we're not feeling complete and whole in many, many aspects of our life. And so I'm hoping through this study that we'll create a better awareness of what really brings satisfaction, what really brings peace into our lives, what really brings a completeness, and that we can find it only through the method that obviously through this study that you're pursuing is where our relationship with God brings the ability to truly have this shalom or this fulfillment. And Boaz is pointing this out, that may Yahweh, which is again the merciful, compassionate attributes of God, bring this completeness to, and it uses the word work here, which is really pa'al, or alad, which is talking about the deeds that you do. It's not a physical work to where you're trying to gain a reward. It's the essence of who you are and the deeds that are proceeding forth from you, not expecting any reward, but knowing that you're pleasing God, and God will take care of the rest, that He will provide the reward. And Boaz is pointing that out to her, and she may not really have known that, being a convert. She didn't have all the religious schooling from little on to bring her into this realm. But verse 12 is just a beautiful place to end our study today as we look at these words here, that Boaz is somewhat being prophetic, telling the future here that the Lord will repay you. You notice this is in a PL form, which is a very strong, it's one of the strongest ways you can state something, with the most emphasis and the most meaning and the most emotion behind it. So he is crying out from his heart that God would repay you and bring you into this completeness, a full reward. And again mentions the word Yahweh again, Yahweh Elohe. So Yahweh, your God, the God of Israel, and bringing this into a fullness of understanding of the one God of Israel and the numerous attributes he has of mercy and protection being combined here with the Yahweh Elohe. And then, of course, with Israel, the name being a champion of status with God, in whose wings you have come to find refuge, who you've come to trust. Again, just a beautiful a story ending here of what Boaz recognizes and sees in this young lady, Ruth, and how this is setting the stage, and you see the emotions coming forth from Boaz here that sets up this beautiful love story that we're following today. So God bless you. Thanks so much for following along. We will continue again next week, and again pray that God will just completely bless you and bring you into this realm that we've been talking about, of a completeness, of a fullness, of understanding of your relationship with Him. God bless you, and see you next week. Bye-bye.